You get out of the hour, you go like that. And once you got by, we were doing it in March. So I come down here.
2 minutes.
The light box.
Just remember, nice and close to the mic, so they can hear you out and you follow in. Perfect.
Just like church. Just like church.
Giving you, as soon as it hits 1 minute, I'll let you know. You are on. It's not live though, because I haven't turned it up on the board yet. 1 minute.
Okay, we're going to get started in exactly 1 minute. So there'll be a number of people probably coming in, but welcome. Thank you for coming to the December meeting of Let's Go Fort Myers Beach, a group of residents and business owners, residents as well, trying to look at the resilience and speed up our rebuild of our beautiful island and, of course, our homes and our businesses. So on today's agenda, I'll figure this out in a moment. Okay, everyone go like that. Okay, this is just working. Guess I should have started this before we started this. Okay, let's go back. Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Hey.
All right, we have success. Okay, today what we're going to do is we're going to do updates from our active committees, as well as, as well as an update from Dave Nussbaum from Fort Myers Beach Condo Association. Well, curious as to what's happening with our condos. I know what's happening with mine. Okay, and then we're going to end up with our keynote speaker, Andy Hyatt, who is going to be giving us an update. He did a written report, and there he is in the back for the City Council. The year in review for the part of the year that Andy was with us here on Fort Myers Beach. And then he's going to be taking questions. We put together some questions that we've heard from all of you that are very important to you, and we're going to ask Andy to respond to some of those. If there's additional questions from the audience, what we're asking is that please do not ask questions regarding your personal property or your personal issues. We'd really like you to think about the needs of, the priority needs of the residents and what's most important, you think, to residents and to business owners on the island. I think it's a lot easier to do it in that manner. And if you have individual issues, that would be a contact directly to Town Hall. Okay, I appreciate you guys doing that. Now let's see what the next slide's gonna look like. This keeps getting lower, sorry. There it is. Yeah, okay. First up, we're gonna have David Nussbaum from the Condo Association. David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss condominiums on Fort Myers Beach. When Beverly asked me to do this, I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? She said, well, I don't know, talk about the problems you're having, talk about the good things that the condos are doing, just kind of give a very, I said, how much time do I have? She said 20 minutes. And I went, oh, okay. So with that, I will try and do this. My name is Dave Nussbaum. I'm president of Island Winds. We're a 100-unit complex on Estero Boulevard. I'm a second-generation owner. My parents purchased in 1988. We purchased ours from the family in 2011. I've been a board member since 2015. I've been rental chairman, vice president, and for the last 7 years, president. And to say it's been an adventure would be an understatement. So with that, I'm going to give just a short history of condos on the beach. In the 60s and 70s, Lee County passed ordinances that allowed for high-rise buildings on the beach. That was probably the impetus for the town to become incorporated in 1995. And shortly thereafter, there were height and density restrictions on the island, which slowed down the building and development of high-rise condos on the beach. There were some properties that were grandfathered, but today there's approximately 105 condominiums on Fort Myers Beach. That's kind of a number I got from the realtor, so it's back of the napkin. If we look at what's on the beach today, we have 3 different classifications or zonings. We have a multifamily condominium, which allows everyone to buy a unit. There's a board of directors, and they oversee the maintenance of the buildings. Island Winds and Sanderac are examples of that. We also have condominium resorts and hotels, which are still, the owner can purchase a unit, and elect a board of directors, but there's also an overseeing entity that runs it as a hotel. And therefore, you can actually run it as a hotel of the island. A couple of examples, Gull Wing is one, as well as Pink Shell. The last one is a timeshare, and we're all familiar with that. Timeshares are literally, you buy a week, that's your week. If you want 2 weeks, you try and get another week, but that's your week. You come in year after year, and all of the owners share the expenses. An example of that would be Sea Watch by Hilton and Mariner's Boathouse on the island. Regardless of the classification of your condo, we're all controlled by Chapter 718 of the Florida statutes, which is the Condominium Act. I don't have enough time or patience to go into the Condominium Act. Needless to say, the legislature continues to tweak it to protect the owners and the condominiums. Enough said on that. So that's a little history. And if I haven't lost all of you yet, let me go into some of the advantages that the condominiums bring here. As I said earlier, we have 105 units, condominiums on the beach. If you take a rough number and say that represents 50 units per condo, that means we have 5,000 households on the beach. Now stop and think about that. 5,000 tax-paying units that are not only paying taxes to support the town of Fort Myers Beach, but also fire district services, mosquito control, library district, Lee County government, and the school system. when you think about a service on the island, think about the benefits that are coming from the condos that are there and the cost that it would be if they weren't there. Additionally, all of the condominiums rent on the island, some more than others, but they all rent. And we all pay a 5% tourist tax, or what is affectionately known as a bed tax, that goes to Lee County. I had to look and find out where we were several years ago, but prior to Ian hitting, I think we're up to somewhere around $60 million in bed tax for all of Lee County, of which Fort Myers Beach is one of the primary contributors to that fund. From that fund, we have money that comes back for beach renourishment. We also have money that goes into advertising and promotion, primarily in the off-season and on-season. And that money is also used for stadium debt services for JetBlue and for the Lee County complex. Also, much of the Lee County money that's being diverted back into rebuilding Fort Myers Beach is coming from that tourism or bed tax. And hopefully we can get a chunk of that to rebuild the pier. We also assume, if we also assume we have 5,000 condominium households, they fill up during the winter months. And again, everyone was complaining. I heard comments about traffic even today. They're back, and it's an issue. However, this town survives on the tourism dollar, and providing places to stay on the island winds, or on the island, allows people to return and enjoy our beaches every year. They dine out, they spend money in shops, they keep our economy afloat. As one official stated in an interview, lodging is the key for people returning to the island. We would need, think about this, 20 Margaritavilles to replace 5,000 units. Just a thought. Okay, politically, 30 years ago, before Al Gore invented the internet, most condominiums operated in a vacuum. They did their own thing, each president did their own thing. We were kind of isolated, but now that we have a communication, we can talk to each other. One such vehicle that we are a member of, and I encourage other condominiums to join if they're not, is the Condominium Association of Fort Myers Beach. It's a loosely run group that allows us to get together regularly and discuss problems on the beach, and there are many. We recently organized a letter campaign right to the Lee County School Board, asking them to keep our school open. Many different owners from many different condominiums submitted letters. I cannot tell you how much of an impact that had, but the school opened yesterday. I'd like to think we were a very small part of that. So, also with the help of Jackie Lesak, we have contacted the state CFO and the governor requesting expeditious payment from our insurance companies. We all suffer that. It's one thing to get a letter from an individual homeowner. It's another thing to get a letter from a president that says, I'm representing 100 homeowners. If you multiply that by 10, that's something that the legislature doesn't walk away from very easily. So that's kind of our political shakedown, which kind of brings us to where we are today on the island. Every condominium on the beach has experienced issues with delayed insurance payouts. Without cash, repairs fall on the burden of owners. Condominium boards have to balance between speedy recovery and cash. whether it comes from small business loans, insurance, or special assessments. To use the old cliche, cash for us at this point in our existence is king. The extent of the damage, the amount of available money, the supply chain delays, and the permitting are all factors determining when each building can open. That's got to be the $64,000 question. With inflation now, it's $1.2 million. But everybody knows when you're going to open. And we just don't know because there are too many factors for each condominium on the beach. Island Winds is targeting February of 2024 for owners to return and possibly April or May to begin renting units. We're waiting for electrical switchgear and elevator repairs before we can make any commitment to our owners. We are no different than anyone else. Other presidents I've talked to prior to today and today actually are waiting on permitting from the town or a small business loan or insurance proceeds. One, believe it or not, is waiting for a unique elevator part. It's manufactured in Ukraine. I'm not making this up. So it might be a while before they can open. For all of us, opening is a target, a moving target that we can't hit. On the positive side, most of the condominiums remained standing after the storm. After a year, many are beginning to open. Not fast enough, but the corner is turning. And every condominium that opens, that returns us to normal and allows full-time owners and tenants and guests to return is one more step we're getting to bring our town and our island back to normal. And we're picking up speed. So those are the issues that we're having today. They're no different than any other property owner on the beach. Every property here is unique, and every issue with every condominium is unique. Some of the shorter condos are running into 50% rules. Some of the high-rise ones are running into elevator issues and everything else. So for me to put a blanket statement out is very hard to do. What I can say is that we're all working on it. We're working very hard, and the pay sucks. So with that, I've tried to do the 3 B's of public speaking: be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So I will take any questions if anybody has any. Otherwise, thank you.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know if there's any truth to it at all, but I heard it from the ton of buildings that are along the beach, that they're having to buy out the first floor owners because they have, it's a method for raising it for hurricane retardant.
Okay, if you could not hear the question, it was buying out first floor units due to FEMA regulations. To date, I have not heard of any condominium on the beach that has to do that. There are several that have first floor units. Island Winds is one of them. One of the advantages of being a high rise is that we have a small footprint on the ground and we go up 13 stories. So each building we have is worth right now appraised at $15 million. So we have a lot of room within FEMA. As I said, some of the shorter ones that are spread out and only go up 4 or 5 stories may have issues on it. So to date, I have not heard of anything on the beach that has to shut down their first floor. What has happened is we've had to move, in some cases, our equipment off the first floor. The fire alarms, the water pumps, everything else, and move them to second floor if we can. And again, every unit, every property is unique. So that's what I know. Yes, sir.
Any issues with fire suppression at Island Winds, and you know of any other condo associations that are having that problem?
We have to install a sprinkler system on the first floor. We were built in 72 and 74, so we did not have to have a sprinkler requirement back then. To date, now we have had to install a fire sprinkler system on the first floor as part of the emergency life-saving support system passed by the Florida legislature several years ago. We may eventually have to put sprinklers in throughout the building, but at this point, we are only being required to do it on the first floor. Other buildings, most of them that have been built beyond a certain time period, have sprinkler systems in. Some of the older ones do not. And so again, it's a case-by-case basis. We're working very closely with the fire marshal to make sure that we are in compliance with code and with Florida's statutes. Yes, sir.
The town is sending a letter to the Lee County delegation in support of condo associations about reserve funding. Can you go a little bit into that, and people in this audience can help, and their neighbors as well?
Okay, as some of you may or may not know, after the Surfside collapse, the legislature passed a mandatory reserve funding, which is due at the end of 2024. For many condominiums, we have to have a mandatory reserve study and then fully fund the reserves by the end of 2024. A lot of us have exhausted our reserves trying to rebuild. So we've gone to the savings account at the bank, pulled it out, and there's not a lot of cash there. We have gone to the state legislature and asked them to give us a 1-year or 2-year moratorium on the funding of reserves. We're not against it. We think it's a good thing, but we've kind of been hammered and we've exhausted the cash available. Insurance payments have been non-existent. And as I said earlier in my speech, speed of recovery is dictated on the amount of cash you have. And when you spend everything out of reserves, you're dead in the water until cash comes in. So we've asked, with the assistance from the town council and other people, if we could have just a delay of a year. 2 would be better, but even a year would give us some breathing room to get us back on our feet. Because I don't know, other condos have operated differently. Some got small business loans. We've had 2 special assessments on our owners. Next year, or the end of this next year, if we don't get a reprieve, there's going to be another one, and it's going to be a big one. So, but every condominium is different. Yes, sir.
How many condos are open right now? Do you know?
I read an article prior to coming here that, and this was in September, 29% of the available units in Fort Myers Beach are open for rentals. Now that includes hotels and condotels and everything else. And that was just what the article said. I would say we're not even close to 50% yet.
Do you think you'll be at 50% by next season?
I think we're going to be real close. other than for the ones that have to get torn down. And there are some of those. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what condos, if many of which are utilizing the small business administration disaster loan?
The question was, are condos using small business loans? And I know of 4 that are. I also know of a lot that aren't. So again, it depends on the association, what the board of directors do, and how they feel is the best way to fund. There's good and bad with a small business loan. The good thing is they're very cheap. The bad thing is if you get payment from your insurance company, you don't get to keep the money. The money goes back to the small business administration first. So if you get a check from the insurance company and it's $1 million and everybody's like doing a happy dance in the hallway until you find out you have to pay the $1 million back to small business first. So it's good and it's bad. It all depends on the circumstances. Okay, if they say hearing none, motion to adjourn.
And we're gonna, yes, sir.
I'll just set the microphone down here.
Of course. And you want to introduce? We have Fox
Yes.
4 TV here.
Hello, I'm the investigative reporter with Fox 4 News.
Thank you. Now what we are going to do is we're going to get some updates from some of our committees. We're going to first start with Alan Shansky, and I'm going to bring up the presentation now. Bear with me.
I don't know about you guys,
My
but
glasses.
any association Dave's involved in, I doubt runs loosely. Doesn't look like a loose guy. Thought I'd never say this, but it was nice getting stuck in traffic on the way here today. And I'm only going to take a couple minutes because the hardest working man in the town, Andy, our town manager, Andy, is going to speak, so I don't want to take up too much time. I'm Alan Shnosky, a proud member of the Let's Go FMB Peer Committee, and I am going to quickly review the survey results that we conducted. I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to see them all. Thank you. So I'm going to review these and then touch on some of the meetings we've had with county. So within 2 weeks, oh boy.
It wasn't just me. There we go. Okay, you have to,
There we go.
up the only
Thank-
sideways.
down.
It's the down one. Okay, no wonder why my slide kept going sideways.
So in just under 2 weeks, we had over 9,200 responses to our small little peer survey. There's some obvious results and some not so. But of course, if you'd like to see Lee County commissioners contribute or make replacing the peer a priority, overwhelmingly 91% said yes. If the costs are greater than the FEMA reimbursement, do you agree the county should make up the difference? Again, overwhelmingly, the answer was yes, 98%. Would you like to have an improved peer? 98.5% of 9,200 respondents said yes. We want to improve the peer. We don't want to replace what was there. Just to clarify, I want everyone to know, and you've heard me say this before, the Fort Myers Beach Pier, as amazing as it was, and I've had 4 generations of my family fish off of it, it was the narrowest and the 3rd shortest pier in the state. In addition, it was just about done with its lifespan. And it had been 30 years since it was redone after a storm in the 90s. So, of course, improved storm resilience. It's a no-brainer, right? Everyone wants improved storm resilience. What can be done? It can be done. Wider than 16 feet. Our pier was 8 feet wide. Again, the narrowest pier in the state. Over 6,000 people would like to see it wider. My wife and I were traveling around piers in the state. The narrowest pier we saw was 24 feet. I'm sorry, I went back. A larger area for sunset, horizon viewing, very important. Ease of access, of course, ADA compliant. A larger area for fishing and longer. Now these are abbreviated, I've edited down the results a little bit. I haven't changed any numbers, but the pertinent information is here. What characteristics of a new pier? Free access. Area for sunset viewing, very, very important. Benches. Overall design. You want it to look good? If Fort Myers Beach is the face of Lee County, the pier is the smile. Let's give it a nice smile. Dedicated area for fishing. Every single pier in the state of Florida started out as a fishing pier. That's why they were built. We want to keep that. It's important. Shaded areas and built-in photo op spaces for visitors and tourists. What's your biggest concern? Length of construction. So you've heard years, months, bantered back and forth. The average pier, new construction, takes approximately 4.5 years. That's what it is. It's a lot of permitting. But I do want to express to you that to replace the old pier does not necessarily take a shorter amount of time. It's the same amount of permits, it's the same processes. The only time you need to add to that equation is the design and engineering. Cost is also a concern. Would you be willing to pay a nominal increase in fee just at Lynn Hall Park to offset some of the costs? Surprisingly, it was to me, most people said yes. So, we've had 2 meetings with county, the peer group, and you may have heard the big announcement 2 weeks ago by Commissioner Hammond that FEMA has greenlit the pier. Well, I'm going to try and be politically correct here. There are those on the peer committee that simply believe he misspoke. And then there's those on the peer committee that believe he was trying to get in front of the pressure applied by Let's Go FMB. FEMA has done nothing. They haven't greenlit anything. And the county has agreed to begin talking about the pier. So, doesn't matter either way. They've given us a pathway, a road to follow. And that will involve council voting on their desires after listening to town input, which we've solicited, and asking our town manager to communicate with county in writing of what those desires and wants are. And that'll be happening relatively quickly. The certain steps to get to a pier are listed behind. First, county needs to create architectural and engineering drawings of the old pier. Some resiliency can be built in, higher breakaway decking, et cetera, et cetera. They then submit those drawings to FEMA. FEMA determines the reimbursement amount, how much they will give the county to build a pier. This is great. However, at this point, the county will have everything they need, except the contractor, to build the old pier. If we want to see an improved pier, one that the committee and I personally believe fits this community, we need to get the county on board before FEMA says, here's money to build the old pier. So our timeline's established. So you will see the peer committee, and hopefully with all the support of Let's Go FMB, working very hard over the next couple months to curry the favor and educate the county to the importance of this project. And that's what I got. Thanks. Any questions? Okay. Anybody? Good.
Alan, thank you so much for your continued hard work.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'm going to turn this projector off now. I'm going to have some updates. I don't believe anyone else is going to be using
The projector, I know my voice is pretty loud, but it's not probably getting back there. Juliana, if you could come up and give us a couple of minute update on transportation. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, I am Juliana, and the update on the transportation, we have one of our people may want to still remain nameless, but it has been working on, still continues to work on the water taxi going from the north side of the beach to even as far as Bonita Springs, and of course stopping along different places along the beach. And so if all goes right, this should all take place next season. And then as far as the free tram being extended from the library to Santini Plaza, that I'm going to try my best. I have to continue working on that in the fall, and then it won't go into to the works not next season, but the season after. As far as people were wanting to make the get rid of the bike lane and extend the sidewalks, that's probably not something that's really going to happen for a very long time. So due to all kinds of reasons, mostly the investment that Lee County had already just recently put into the sidewalks on the beach. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Sherry, would you stop up and give us an update on landscaping?
Landscaping, we're kind of far down the road to really begin doing anything that we want to do for the island. Mainly at the market every week, they're trying to show all the natural Florida planting to help educate just the townspeople on what to plant. If we can do native Florida planting, that's our goal. Our further goal down the road is we wanted to make like large cement planters and put them various places around the island and have different people paint them. And we're even thinking like Bayos could paint one, the kids could all put their handprints and just do native flowers where we would label them so people could see what the flowers were and what the plants were and what really thrives in Florida to keep things all at home. But a lot of ours is so far down the road because there's so much building and construction to do. But we are going to be going out and seeing if we could get some help with the planters. We could get somebody just to build them, and then we can all plant and do our thing. So we're still hanging in there. That's it. Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question of Cindy Johnson. My understanding is that every other Friday at the farmer's market, that free native plants are being given away for residents.
For anyone, actually. At Mark Times, yes.
So I wanted to let everybody know that a great way to start on your landscaping, getting things going, and making sure that there are native plants that will handle a little salt water again in the future. Did I miss any of our committee updates? How could I miss you, Scott? Scott Stafford.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna follow Dave and do the 3 Bs, but I'm not that brilliant. Funny thing, on the way walking in here, first gentleman I met was Dave, and his first question to me was, what are you guys doing with your hotel? I don't know if you guys noticed, but my wife and I own the Sea Gypsy Inn, right down here and was lost in the hurricane. So our committee, the small business committee, we're trying to get small guys built back quicker and more cost efficiently. And I told them I think I have something. So my update, we have talked to the town LPA, the town council, about a pink zone concept, which is basically cutting red tape and building back quicker. Found out that pink zone, there's some legal issues with it. So our town attorney found out that we can do what's called a developmental agreement. Basically cuts the time and the cost in half. And actually, the cost is way more than half. So we have a joint meeting with the LPA and the town council December 19th, after our second LPA meeting of the month. And both groups are going to talk about how we can do these developmental agreements, both as parameters and who qualifies for it. So there's some things we have to work out, but we think hopefully next year that we can get these developmental agreements in place so the small guys can come in and say with their attorneys to the town attorney, hey, I'd like to do this. I need a little bit less parking. I need a little bit more density. I need a little bit more height. Are you guys okay with that? The attorney agrees to it, and it goes right to the LPA, within one council here, and boom, we get shovels in the ground and buildings back in the air. So that's our goal. And people have asked me, well, why are you fighting so hard for just the small businesses? It's not just the small businesses. It's the island. It's the goods and services that when Dave's condo guys move back in, where are you going to buy gas? Where are you going to buy beer? Where are you going to go to the doctor? Where's the bank? So we're getting a lot of those questions right now from our tourists. What's open? Where can I buy stuff? I mean, let's face it, guys. We're a quarter of the way through the 21st century. 15 months after the storm, still can't buy gas on this island. Still can't buy a 6-pack of beer or fine ice after 7 o'clock. So we got to get businesses back. It's just a must-have. We got to keep our tax dollars on this island. And that's my update. Hopefully the meeting on the 19th will go well, and we can get some processes in place. We can get guys back in business and support the island. Good. Andy, you're up.
All right, is Andy doing a presentation first? Yeah, come on.
No, you're not on.
You're not on.
Andy, you doing a presentation first, or you're going to write me a question and answer? Me talk a little bit? Oh, okay, you talk a little bit. I talk too much. As Andy's coming up, I can give you a quick update. After what Alan said, I sent a text to County Commissioner Brian Hammond and asked him to clarify about the pier. He said the county manager, Dave Harlow, told him that we're okay to go ahead and design the pier. I won't tell you what he said after that, Alan, but I will show it to you after the meeting. Yep. You're good.
Good evening. I'm not the most eloquent speaker. I think that award goes over here. He does such a great job when he gets up to speak, and I think we all, which probably you did too as well. So I'll try to keep it short and learn from you. What you're going to see here, this is basically my posse. When I got here, these guys were already here. And so there was some undiscovered talent that I was fortunate enough to be able to discover, and each one of them has a different responsibility, but each one of them understands their responsibility is to you, not to me, not to themselves, but to you to ensure that we build back as fast as we can, as safe as we can, and we'll introduce them in just a minute. But one thing that we talked about, and I've talked to our new group that's come in to help us with permitting, Jacob's group. We're going to meet Friday morning, kind of help the condos understand a little bit more about what they need to do, how they can get help. We're bringing in more permit technicians, and we're going to have to bring 3 inspectors more in-house so we can be a little quicker on our inspections. We do try to cut our time down as much as possible, and of course, everybody's a little different depending on what your needs are, but a lot of similarities, right? We got our group of non-conforming lots, we've got our group of people who are in the condos, our group of people who are in the hotels, small businesses. So we've got to try to customize as much as we can. There's not a one size fits all. It would be easy if that were true. Been here almost 7 months, and I remember after I got here, I was kind of, just paying attention and looking around and listening a little bit. And, at 4:30, the beach is pretty desolate and there's not a lot going on. And then the sunset starts to happen and people show up and then they leave. And you start thinking, am I going to be able to do this? I'm not sure if any of you have had doubts in your career. And as I get into pushing toward my 65th year, I know I don't look that old. John, tell him, John.
Sure, I'll come up, stand by you, look like him.
Thank you. This has been by far, outside of the collapse building in Surfside, my biggest challenge. And it's really kind of an interesting challenge. It's unusual. You don't really go into a town as a town manager expecting to have to, in some way or another, affect every person here, every structure in town that has been damaged from a hurricane. There's hurricanes that hit all over the state and don't get the devastation that you had here. So as I was looking afar from Surfside and sending help with our police department and the things that we did to try to do our little part, little did I know that about 7, 8 months later, I'd be here. And it's really been kind of refreshing for me, because you always go into a situation, and I know I'm probably not giving you what you want yet, but hang in there. It's kind of refreshing to me to be able to come into a place and now look back 7 months later and say, wow, I've really got a passion for what we're doing here. I've really got some ownership here, personal ownership, and some goals that I've set for myself. And with this group, and hopefully you've interacted with some of them. They're really a pretty phenomenal group. It's an unusual group to get together where the whole group is smarter than I am. And that's the plan. The plan is to, is to surround myself with people who are smarter than me. And I would be amiss to think that I am the answer, the end all, end all. We all wear different hats. I know that, been a question as much as today, why does somebody have so many jobs? Have you looked around? It's just not normal. And we all have to wear different hats. Each one of them at any time of the day is coming with me to do 2 or 3 different things. Jeff today was out in the park. We were measuring for where our trailers were. We were marking and all. We were out there today putting in a bin, stacking concrete barriers up to put a bin to put clay in. I mean, we just do so many things. It's not normal. And that's a good thing, because I think it keeps us active and keeps us focused. And we've expanded our hours. Starting when the trailers get there, probably the 1st of January, our hours at our town hall will be 5 days a week, 7:30 to 5:30. That's unheard of. We're not going to be paying more overtime. We're not going to be doing, taking advantage of the budget. We're just expanding our schedules. 4 10s here, 4 10s there. People in normal 8-hour shifts. But we're going to be there for you. We're going to have set up our one of our new trailers, which is the main trailer for a one-stop shop. When you come in, you've got everybody there that you need. If you need permitting, if you need water, the utilities, if you need to pay a fine, hopefully not for parking. But we tried to focus on how we can reduce that kind of complaint. And surprisingly enough, and I'm not going to look at the elected officials, I'm not sure if they really get any complaints anymore about parking fines. I'm not sure. I don't know that Ed, you and I've even talked about that in a while. And Frankie, right again, Frankie, in case you don't know Frankie Profaci, that's Frankie. Frankie's from Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. That's been the most fascinating part, working with a lot of people from the Midwest. That's Jason, Floridian, somebody from Louisiana, Jason, I'm sorry. This Jason, I'm not sure where he's from. But Jeff's from Minnesota, so I know we got some Minnesota in the house. But we're kind of a different group, and they're dealing with this kid who was raised in Appalachia, and we just We just have gotten along. It's really been an amazing change, but we're looking at parking, every town I've been to, small town especially, I've been to 3 beach communities, and the same thing comes up. What are you doing about parking? What are you doing about parking? What are you doing about parking? It really gets to be something that you hope you can change, but every time I've been there, we've created more parking spaces, they fill up. So that's a good problem to have. People keep coming, and that's what we want to do. I know there's been talk of parking garages, and there could be a discussion tomorrow at the MMP meeting about parking. And there's going to be some things we do look at. We don't not do it. Again, I've been here 7 months. Rome was not even built in 7 months, but we're working hard to do that. As we work on other things like I don't have my glasses on. My apologies. The recreation center. We've been working so hard on that, the Bay Oaks Recreation Center, to get that open back up, and we're there. We're waiting on the fire department. Now we're waiting on somebody to give us an approval. Imagine that. We all have to wait. We have no more influence than anybody. But what we've learned is that we need to be patient, make sure we do the right things, and check all the boxes. And so hopefully tomorrow we get a TCO and we can start getting you back into your community center. You should wait till you see the paint job, and wait till you see the new equipment that's in there, ready for you to work out. And the gymnasium looks better than ever, I understand. So it looks a lot better than the first time I went in 6+ months ago. So we really got some good things going on. So, and as we move into the ballpark and we get our RFPs out and we get ready to build the big ball field, we finished with the small ball field. We've got a few things to do there, but I'm not sure if any of you are on the softball teams that come out there, but it's good to see that on the little field. But they're like, when's the big field coming? So we're starting really soon. We've already kind of started with some tree work and to start getting that the big ball field started. We're going to raise it up because it's in a flood-prone area, and if Vidalia taught us anything, it was that the berm works where it is, if it's there. It doesn't work where people said, no, I don't want the berm. But it was really interesting after the storm. Chad got several calls. Hey, I want a sign now to get the berm near my house so the flood waters. So we saw where it was, but we want to raise some of our properties up in the park, raise the ball fields up and that type of thing to help preserve them and make them last a little longer. They're kind of low lying. So we're going to be working on that. And just things you don't see. You don't hear us talk about, and you're not part of that, but canal dredging. That's a big deal. We are trying so hard to work on that. We talked a little bit about it at the council meeting on Monday. There never has been maintenance in recent memory, even before annexation, or incorporation, excuse me. And what we're trying to do now, we've talked with FEMA. We've actually had a phone call just before this at 4 o'clock with people from FEMA. They're trying to give us engineering dollars to plan and design and do some things. So guess what? One of the top things is going to be, it's going to be our canals and dredging those out and getting the water taxis, whoever was talking about water taxis, I'm sorry, over here, I'm right. And getting that going and getting the boats back in there and maybe bigger boats. I'm not really sure. I'm not speaking about that. Everybody will do what they can do. The one thing that I had to do, and it's anybody that's run their own business or been a CEO or town manager or chief administrative officer or whatever you want to be, or just owning your own store, you continually try to improve your staff and try to make sure that you've got the right people doing the right things. And a lot of times in small government, we hire people because it's like, oh, we got a vacancy, and you bring them in. But what I've done is try to retool a little bit to make sure that what they're doing fits what the need is for the town. Having a town that is just status quo when you come in and it's you got dogs on the beach and permitting every now and then, you don't, and parking issues and parking fines, you don't have a lot of tweaking to do. But as we've adjusted, Jason has just become Monday, Jason Freeman, native of Fort Myers Beach, has just become our legislative liaison, because we are dealing so much with the local Lee County, the state of Florida, and the federal government, that's just something that has never been done before at this level. So we had to get somebody that could fit that niche, because stuff can fall between the cracks so easily. It's like when all of a sudden we're have 1,800 applications for permits. I think that's somewhere around the number. It's like we have 5 people doing that. What do we do? And then the state takes people away. Okay, well, our people are still here. But we're trying to create more of a customized system, and we're working on that as we move into our new trailers. And as we just brought on Jacob's group this week, they brought in 3 additional permit techs. And as I mentioned, they're going to bring in, we brought in a new building official, and we're bringing in 3 inspectors. They've already hired 2, and they're about to hire a 3rd in permit review. Plan review. That seems to be a bigger drag on the people's time. But as we move into those type of things, we're trying to be a little bit more about what Scott said and try to be as responsive and have things go a lot quicker. There are requirements for advertising and those type of things. That's the law. We have to follow the law, the state law, and make sure people are aware of what's going on next to them. So we have to, there's got to be proper advertising. But again, we are so mindful of those. It's an amazing journey for me, because usually you go into a town and you have 1 or 2 things. Then all of a sudden you come to a town, I come here, and there's so many areas, just getting the Parks and Rec back up. I mean, is that important? Absolutely. We think it's important, and we're working on that. And, I remember talking to Karen when I got here, and it was like the first 2 or 3 weeks, and we're like, we gotta have a win. We need a win. We need to do something. So we're like the pool, and it's like, well, not pool, because there's just so many moving parts with the pool. But that's coming soon, so stay tuned. But the Little League ball field, that kids and to see the adults out there playing softball, and to see, how that, even our own staff mowing the grass again and doing the things that a town does. And, and we're so excited to be able to get some lights. We're just looking to get our lights, so we can have people out there in the evening time, and we can do some other things. So just the little things like that. And I'm trying to use all my time so we don't have any questions. That.
Well, we have questions. A lot of questions.
I think one thing, to build off what Karen and I talked about, and at the time I wasn't sure, but I talked to Jackie. She was talking to me one day. I don't know if Jackie is here. See Jackie. She didn't come to hear me talk. Okay, I remember that, Jackie. But she said we want to have some events in Bayside Park, and I said this was probably June. And I have it open by September 1st. And then I saw Dan Allers the next day. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We need a win, Karen. We need a win." Karen and I talked about that, and that's kind of something that we gotta win something. We gotta get that. I get it, permits. That, yes, those are wins each time. But this was something, and I'm not sure if you come to Sunday nights there, if you came to the September 28th memorial service or any other thing that we're going to be having in there, but that was a big win. We came in. I remember the contractor wanted to spend about 1.5 million. I think we spent just over 500,000, and turned around and got 500,000 back from the governor's wife for that project. So sometimes when you just step out there, I'm going to use the term step out there on faith, you just be surprised what the return's going to be. And we invested, and it came back. I'm looking at the clock was coming, and the Marshmans had donated that, and I've been talking to them, and like, okay, let's get that by the 28th. And I think that probably was the worst kept secret in town. But as we got closer, it's like, we got to put some trees in there. We got to do something, And so, the banyan trees, I think, is that what we put in there? Royal palms, I'm sorry, royal palm. And it just kind of frames everything if you look out that way. And it's just, I don't know, it's just the wins and some of the things that we're doing to continue our daily grind and what they're doing, and hopefully they'll get a chance to answer some of your questions or offer some insight to what's going on. And I guess, I've talked enough. I'm not that guy. I just, we work all day. I know several of us are there from 7:30 in the morning to 5:36 at night, and it just seems like it's something, just go all the time. And we're not your typical government anymore. I can tell you that. We're not, that's not to cast aspersion on anybody else, but we're not. I'm not sure if you've dealt much with us, with this group, but we try to get things done. We don't I hate bureaucracy and I hate red tape.
All right, well, we have some questions. I know Becky surveyed the folks in the group and they came up with some questions, but the first question I wanted to ask you, Andy, was I think one of the reasons this group was put together was because they felt like things were moving too slow. Do you think things are moving too slow?
Yeah, you know, and I'll answer this way. I'm a, ask permission, you know, what is it, instead of asking permission, ask for forgiveness kind of guy. You know, it's kind of like, I'll respect with my elected officials. We communicate constantly. We talk all the time. They know what I'm doing. So it's not that situation where I do something, they're like, we didn't know you did that. But we do, we think, and that's why we went out and got the Jacobs Group. It took a little while for me to get my arms around it. And what we understand is that your problem, your individual problem is the biggest thing you're dealing with. And we're dealing with, you know, all of those combined. So we like to prioritize. We've got some excellent staff that are in the permitting area, especially that area. That seems to be the area that needed the focus. So we kind of, you know, I think we made some strides, but we also talk about continually improving and trying to make things just as good as we can. That's why we're going to create a little different dynamic in the new trailer. And hopefully, you know, people will see the difference. You know, the big thing to me is calling customers back, responding in a timely manner with the same information. One thing that if you've gotten a rejection letter and then a few weeks later you get another rejection letter, our system's set up just to generate that kind of stuff. So we've got to do a better job, and we do. And we continually are our own worst critic. If we get one phone call or one email or elected official calls us or asks us a question, I mean, we jump on that with both feet. Call us. We work really good together. I think, of course, we'll find out, you know, in a year from now if I get a review, and I'm here in start year 2. But I think at this point, it seems like a very good group of people that are focused on moving the town to where it needs to be and responding to you accordingly. And hopefully that's with an improved timeliness.
This question comes from the group out here, and you just brought it up. Update on permitting. What is the timing of the staff returning resident emails and calls? Many residents are complaining they are not getting responses from certain town departments. Many comments, issues regarding the complexity and very high cost of permits on Fort Myers Beach. A lot of stuff to unravel there.
Yeah, I'll try to poke at it a little bit. I know I'll get Frank to talk a little bit about a couple of things, if that's okay with the group. I think that it's good for you to hear from the people who deal with it every day and whose responsibility it is. All my responsibility. What I like to tell you is it's my responsibility if it goes bad. If it goes good, I want them to take the responsibility. You know, put your focus here. They've got a hard enough job to do without having to bear that burden as well. But as calls come in and as we get communication, hopefully we are getting back. I think we see a unique situation before us with timeliness. Is that kind of where we were? With, you know, getting the calls back in a timely manner, and we do talk about that. We did, you know, I know that each one of them, and there's people that are here. This was just the ones that agreed to come. You know, it's like the shirt fit them, so hire them. No, but I know Jason Smalley, he's coming to the office because we share offices, and Frank and I are in the same office, and he's coming in and asking questions of Frank. You know, when we made the change, I kind of put Frank in charge, you know, put another hat on Frank, and so anytime during the day, he's got to take his 2 or 3 hats off and put them on and put them, you know, and move around and answer questions. And I think one thing that we see is how he's focusing on the timeliness of response. And I know that there's times where we look at each other and say, oh, no, we didn't respond there. It's like, hurry up, let's get that, because that's the most important thing to you is again, as we speak about that. So, Frank, do you want to come up and speak to some of that just a little bit and see if there's anything, you know, that I might have left out? I think, you know, returning email from Paul is a key. Tell me you're on.
Hello, everybody. My name is Frankie Kropacek. I'm the operations director for the town of Fort Myers Beach. One of our duties that we try to do as a staff is just that, try to get back in touch with people. Almost everybody in this room has reached out to me in some way or fashion, either because I've asked you to, hey, call me if you ever get a problem, and I've not returned our call, or I've not returned the email. When it comes through on our town phones, or for whatever reason, again, we're working out a construction trailer, and our whole communication setup is not set up the greatest of ways. Unfortunately, when it does get to one of our elected officials and does come to our attention, it's not that, oh my gosh, we gotta hurry up and handle this. It's not any different than anybody else in this town. We try to deliver the same amount of service to everybody. We sat down with Dave. He had gotten a bunch of dumb information along the way from a lot of different people. I think we got you handled, and we're gonna get you on the correct path to move forward. And that's the whole thing, is finding a solution. You know, if we can break down that barrier and you can get to us, we're always in the office, we're always in a trailer. Just get the question to us somehow, some way. We're gonna find a way to handle it for you, plain and simple. It may not actually be what you're looking for, but you know what? We're not gonna leave you hanging and dry either. We're gonna find a solution to get you to where you need to be. This is a unique situation, as Andy has said. You know, he's been with coastal, small town, medium-sized town governments his whole career. I kind of come from the other spectrum. I come from a big county, where we were kind of that ivory tower town looking down, and you had the big picture, so you didn't have a lot of that little stuff. We did have a lot of zoning, we did have a lot of building going on in our county. We had a lot of other things, and permitting was a big part of it too. We never, ever existed without 5-star customer service. And that meant you come in to talk to me, I'm following up with you 2 days later after I give you that edict of what you need to bring back. We're following up left and right, and that's what the Jacobs Group is going to allow us to do. By just adding those 3 people and subsequently, or adding to what we already had in-house, that frees up staff to give us that 5-star white glove service, to reach out to you when you come in and say, yeah, all I'm doing is putting windows in my house. We're going to tell you what you need the very first time. So when you come back, it's all taken care of. You're ready to go. We did not have that in place. We couldn't have it in place after something like this. We are there now. We're actually at that point where we can provide basically concierge service for permitting. And that's going to give us a whole new dynamic on how we deal with the public, how we get you guys built back the right way, and get everybody back in their homes, their businesses, their hotels, whatever you want to call it. We're here to help everyone. And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
All right, the next question is, what is the status of the stormwater drainage repairs on the town side streets? I'm sorry?
I have a question about stormwater and drainage.
Okay.
Can I
After this, we'll give you the mic.
I don't want to.
Well, the people in the audience
Yeah,
need to
let
hear.
everybody hear what you have to say.
So if you listen to town council meetings, you've heard us talk about Tier 1. We're kicking off Tier 1. What exactly is Tier 1? Tier 1 has been a multi-stage project that's been in the works for a number of years, long before Ian. And it started excuse me, I got a little bit of a head cold. It started at the north end of the island, and it's kind of been intermixed between the island long before Ian even hit us. After Ian hit us, it kind of left us in a bind. What do we do? How do we pick up the pieces and move on? Ian didn't dictate where we started. I think the island dictated where we're starting. We're starting Tier 1, which is all new sewer, stormwater lines, and that's throughout the side streets of the town, coming off of Estero. It'll be starting on Bahia Via, and it wasn't because that was the one that people complain about. That happens to be one of the lowest graded streets in the town, either at sea level or slightly below. So even under a regular high tide, we get, thank you. Even under a high tide, we get problems with flooding coming in. That's where we start. We're going to continue on with that project to the end, and then come back and recapture some of the other areas. We're not leaving anybody high and dry. We're making sure that it's well, we are. We are going to try to leave it high and dry.
So my question is.
We need you to use the mic though, just so everybody that's watching can hear you.
Okay, so this is my question. Tier 1, when you started that at the north end and moved down, I live on a street that just kept constantly getting skipped, went further down and continued on. At the time, there was a manager, his name was Roger. He told me I was in Tier 5. Come to find out there's no Tier 5. So he just said that to shut me up. I live on Sterling Ave, one of the lowest, super low. So years ago, they put these big baffle drains in, one on Dundee Street, one on Seminole Street. And guess where all that water's getting pumped? My backyard, Seminole's backyard. Sterling and Seminole flood like crazy. There is no danger. It is the lowest. There's only 3 little drains, but none of them had duck bills. I work for Ferguson Enterprises, so I know water work.
You do.
So,
Sounds like it.
So no duck bills. So when high tide comes up, the water floods. So that's one issue. Second issue is these little drains that we have, they don't work. In fact, when Ian came, it cracked the pipe under the street. So now we literally have no drainage. There was a gentleman that worked on your board who we called a meeting, Steve, something like that. He came, he met all the people on our street, hired engineers, he had a plan, he promised me, great guy. And the work was gonna start in November. Well, it didn't. And then I found out he resigned, and that's the problem. Every time there's somebody in waterworks or in your water department, your drainage, they leave. So Sterling Ave gets skipped over again. Every street is skipped. We're skipped. But all the water's getting dumped in on Sterling and in Seminole. Literally right in our backyard. Okay, Hurricane Ian wiped everybody out.
Ma'am, is there a question?
No.
Because she asked me to make sure it wasn't all personal, but it's.
This isn't personal.
Well,
This is
okay,
all about the
but there's
residents.
gonna be a lot of questions.
That's okay, but listen,
Okay.
it's about the residents. It's not my issue, it's everybody. There's funding, I know there was funding, so my question is, Ed, my question is, we were promised in November that Sterling and Seminole was gonna get taken care of. Now I hear we're in tier 1, but in D, the last one, once again. So that's my question, like when they have to pitch the road different, they gotta put drainage in, when is that gonna happen? When it rains out, that street floods.
Well, I can tell you this, I was not here when they put the groups of the roads in the categories. However, tier 1 is just a generic catch-all. It absolutely means nothing. When you're told tier 5, yeah, that means like blue sky, right? But to address those streets that you're talking about, Seminole, Sterling, they are included in this. And when we talk about starting at one group A, B, C, or D.
But my question is, we were told this was gonna start.
So when will Sterling start? Exactly when will Sterling
I do not know
start?
exactly when Sterling will start.
Okay.
I know when the project.
But they're in tier 1, and tier 1 starts when?
Tier 1, all the streets that we're doing, the rest of the remainder of the town is called tier 1.
I
The
see.
project is called tier 1.
So it does sound like it could be a little confusing. You
Sure.
guys laid out the streets at the town council meeting. Do you recall what the streets are in order?
No, that's
Okay.
I'll pay it on order.
But
But
you're gonna
Where do you get that from?
Yeah.
We don't talk about particular streets.
If you got a question, we'll need you to use the mic. Sir,
Can you reach out to?
come on up.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely
Oh,
can.
I mean,
sorry,
we're not
Becky.
trying to sidestep an issue at all, and I'll tell you
Yeah,
this.
that's okay.
Sterling, Seminole, all those streets are going to be covered this go-around, without a doubt.
Yeah, but this is my thing. It was promised, it's always promised, it gets skipped. It's not just me, it's the whole street. You gotta understand, people talk about, it's about us, care about your residents, but I
Correct.
don't see that. That's my thing.
Go ahead, Becky.
What I'd like to ask is a question. When can we have a date? A proposed date, work plan by street? The reason I say that, and I think that there's gonna be a lot of people in here who are in the same boat. We're all on different streets, okay? It's throughout the island. We understand. This is not a minor job. But the issues are, we're getting water in our homes. I've already lost everything that I put in my garage. from Ian with Adela, for example. And I know many other people have too. So I would say it's probably much higher priority than the canals, the water taxis, and things of that nature, from the standpoint of people are having their lives upside down again because of the water issue. Okay, so we really appreciate, you're not gonna know off the top of your head what street. Could you come out with a,
We can definitely do that. We can
Thank
get with
you.
the vendors and we can give you all a date on approximately when they will be out there. Well, when we talk about the water tax and we talk about these other projects, these are things that we're working on. You always have to be working on the projects. It doesn't mean that we're focusing every moment of our town's attention on it. So the tier 1 project, as we call it, and it was labeled that way when Andy and I got here, is already in the works. The vendor has been chosen. The vendor's already ready to start towards the end of December. Again, we're in that short time of year. More than likely, you'll start seeing them kicking off with big construction equipment and starting to go. More than likely, we will be going full bore here by the end of January on all these streets, especially in that area.
Also, the canals are part of the stormwater drainage system, so the canals are important, because the canals, that's where all the water is supposed to go to the canals, and if they're full, then the water.
And when you
can't get
mentioned the
in.
duckbills are included. We have a lot of duckbills in our outfalls that we have to take care of that are in this project that weren't addressed the last time. Not only in those areas, but also in our downtown areas. Adalia taught us one thing: this whole downtown area is underwater, and it's because the duckbills were never installed, like on Crescent, Third, and First. And those are the areas that are also going to be tied into this. They weren't originally. We added them into this part of the project.
you inherited this.
Right, we had just talked with the Ferguson salesman, as a matter of fact. Yes, yes.
Am I up?
We've
Is it my
awarded the
turn?
contract, and the contractor and the engineer will give us timelines and things like that. They're well publicized, and their schematic for where they're going to be working will be publicized very soon. I don't want to say it's next week, but we're working with them every day.
Number one on the list.
It is, ma'am.
It's the sign.
It is, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
Nice and close.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll try to be brief. Ron Fleming, I think we've had many wins in the recent, I mean, the Beach School, crushing the referendum that Batana wanted to steal the fire department and all the land. Margaritaville just opened, soft opening, they're open tomorrow. I mean, thank God for that. But my question, I'm asking you for something that you have no authority over, but you have influence. Crosswalks, signs, from the bridge to everywhere there's a beach access. Now, there are no crosswalks except painted in the street. We have visitors coming. I've talked to all the elected officials. Now I'm talking to you, and I've asked them, what can you do? I've talked to the county commissioners. Somebody's going to get hit by a car, all right? Because the people see in the street, they see the paint, but there's no sign. Now, there's a couple at the library, there's a couple on First Street and Crescent, but that's it. So please use your influence and get us some crosswalks. Oh, and also, were the 12-foot high stop sign poles on sale? I mean, there's the stop sign and then 6 feet up. There again, I don't know,
Yeah,
but thank you.
A couple of things, we're working with the county, the street light program that we've approved, and we've gotten the 7.7, so we have not, it's at the county level, the 7.66 million. They just voted on it to receive the money and work on the MOU with us at this past Tuesday. Part of that project is the crosswalks that the county is going to be paying for. So yes, we will just be discussing that with them and influencing that as much as we can. The other thing is, and I've seen all the cute, texts and comments and things. Not sure how many street sign projects you've done, but you make them taller, because on top of those are going to be your street markers. And those things are about 6 inches, so you got 12 more inches that are going to be on top, and then they'll cut the tops off. Because you want to know where you're going. You want that fire department to know where your Seminole is. So that's next. So there's a method to the madness. You don't put up a short pole and wish you had a pole extension, and then everybody would say, why did they put taller poles up? So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. So the poles will be cut off once the street signs are put on, and those will be blue street signs.
Before Andy's question, there was a question from the audience. I don't know, maybe Jeff could answer exactly when Bay Oaks would be open and when the weight room would be open. That came from Brad Foreman in the audience, and so I figured if you had an answer to that, you could let everyone know.
I can certainly try to answer it. Jeff Hauge, Director of Cultural Parks and Rec here at Town of Fort Myers Beach. We are down there, or I am down there a couple times a day, trying to motivate them to finish up the project. They're getting really, really close. Fire department was down today to check the sprinkler systems and do kind of a rough inspection. So we're getting to that point where inspections are being done. They do have some drywall to do in the bathrooms. We're trying to get a temporary CO for our kids to be in there right now. We're bringing them over to Mound House for the after-school program, which we did this summer as well. So they're enjoying themselves. We have about 28 kids right now out of the beach school, so that's great. But we really want to get them in the rec center. So we're trying to get a temporary CO to get the gym for the kids and have programming there. Yes, we like to do as much activity as we need, but we can use outside as well. But as far as the weight room, the equipment's already installed. It's there. We're just waiting on the COs to get in, which I guess I ask about every day. What's our timeline? What's our timeline? And I don't get that clear of an answer, but it is going to be, I'd say, in the next hopefully within 3 weeks. 3 weeks we'll be in with memberships and pickleball inside. The outdoor pickleball and all the aerobics and classes and the senior programs and everything will start up hopefully by the first of the year, if not earlier. We're shooting for earlier, but I just want to set realistic expectations. And then we're also building National Fitness Court is going to be right outside on Estero Boulevard, right by the pool. So that'll be free to everyone. They can walk up, they can work out. There's going to be shade sails, drinking fountains, that kind of thing. So I guess to answer the question about Bay Oaks, we want to get it as open as early as possible. We're thinking about 3 weeks. If you get a temporary CO, maybe in a week, if we can work with the fire department in getting that, at least to get our kiddos in there, and then probably, like I said, about 3 weeks, and we'll be in hopefully earlier. But I just want to make realistic expectations.
Thanks, Jeff. Just remember what that whole area looked like a year ago and how big that debris pile was. And that Jeff is saying it's going to open in a few weeks. It's amazing. So our next question comes from motivational speaker Andy Meehan. Thank you.
It might be a question for Jeff after he walked away. So, and thank you for the crosswalk question, because my dog and I almost get hit every morning crossing the street. But I'm wondering, I hear a lot of rumors. I always like to go to the source, Newton Park. I'm hearing it's not going to be a park. It's going to be a park. It's turning into a building. It's turning. And I'm like, no. That's my park. That's where I hang out. So I know we care about this end.
Yeah, through the Florida State grant that we have to get the land, it does, and we want it to go back as a educational and passive recreation park. It's not going to be a parking lot. I've had a lot of calls for that. I've heard it's going to be just a parking lot and a beach access. It will not. It's going to go back with vegetation, restrooms. We're in the works to get quotes for restroom trailers to get down there, because I know there's not a lot of public restrooms on that side of the island, or in the middle of the island. So we're looking at getting those hopefully by the first of the year installed. Then they won't just be porta potties. They'll be nice air conditioned trailers with electricity and water. But yeah,
another win.
Yeah.
And for the other end, for those of us that live.
And right now, it's the state is using it as a part of their beach renourishment staging area till May. But we are looking at working with them and making a part of Newton Beach vegetation and a walk to the beach and continuing beach walks, putting signs out there and getting education back.
Thank you for the dog poop bags. Thank you for the garbage cans. All that things matter. So thank you very much.
All right. Sorry about that. The next question is, what is the town doing to repair the scours created by the berms, the town berms? It creates mosquito breeding grounds. Did you know that?
That's what I've heard. I was down in the park the other day and down by the school and I got attacked. I reached out to the mosquito control, reached out, called, and hopefully, I didn't get a call back, but, anybody not happy with not getting a call back? Okay, because I thought that it was, important for them to, spray around the school before the kids got there, but I know we talked about this exact thing, so Chad will introduce himself and explain.
Hey everyone, Chad Schutz, environmental staff. So we have a few different beach projects going on. We are finishing up the berm project, and that's helped out with the scours, the seawalls. There's some areas where that doesn't touch just with the alignment of the berm, and we have another project that we are finishing off the invitation to bid, and I believe we're going to be putting it out to bid by Friday, I believe is what Ms. Amy said. So that's going to be out. That'll be out for 30 days, barring any protest and FDM coming through with the money they promised us. We should be by the new year filling in the beach scours that are south of the renourishment project, and that renourishment project, which is the big project from Bowditch to Lanark, and then also in the CWA, that should be starting in the new year. We finally got our U.S. Army Corps permit within the last couple of weeks. So we're full steam ahead on getting, I think someone said around $42 million worth of sand onto the beach.
By the way, if anyone thank you, Chad. If anyone has any questions, just come right on up and ask away. I don't know if you watch my Facebook page every once in a while, you see cars stuck in the sand. They'd all come from the beach accesses, but the question is, why are there no signs prohibiting cars on the beach at the beach access points? Cars, why anyone would drive on the beach with their car, I'll never understand, but.
Yeah, we're not really sure why either. Of course, we hope people call 911 and get Lee County Sheriff's Office out there when they see it, because once it's there, they're stuck and they're an easy target for a ticket. We are going to be working on all of our beach access points. We were talking about the poles for each of the access points. We're talking about a tractor that we've recently purchased thanks to the Lee County TDC, Tourist Development dollars, which is really helps us tremendously for working on the beaches. And I'll let Chad talk about signage. All that signage will go with that. But anything else?
Yeah, so the tough thing is all these accesses, they're under construction. Our beach is under construction. It's going to be under construction. I fully agree we should get signs out there, and we have gotten some cones and some temporary measures to try and mitigate that issue. I have called LCSO, I forget how many times, on people that are tearing up the berm that we worked so hard to get out there. So in full agreement, and we hear you.
I'll work with staff and Jason, if you and I can discuss, getting some signs ordered and getting that taken care of. We've got a lot of the big signs and the frames ready to go in and things that need, but there's so much work and still a lot of work around those areas. So it is a focus. Another one of those on the list, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. So we're there.
And if you do see anyone get stuck in the sand, please take a picture of them and send them to me. What are the plans for street cleaning, Andy?
Well, we contract Lee County currently cleans our Estero Boulevard and Estero Boulevard. Our piece of equipment, good or bad, in order to get it repaired, you have to get it transported to Orlando, I believe. So there's some discussion that we're having about a new piece of equipment, trying, maybe some of the tourist dollars that could pay for that to help beautify and keep things clean. We do think, that it's important for us to get out there. I'm a curb appeal guy. So it's, when I see brush, palm fronds, anything, we're always talking about, let's get that picked up. Actually, one of the other hats Frankie and I are going to put on in the next couple of days is going by and identifying the locations where our staff needs to go out and putting little orange flags. If you see little orange flags by brush, it's not a sign that there's a fine coming. It's a sign that our staff needs to get out there. So we're going to put some dates on things and just kind of start working it that way. We're a hands-on staff. And so cleaning the streets is near and dear, and, you know, and with Jason's responsibility and his background, he's been working with that. But it was interesting after some interesting reason. I don't know why. I have a hunch, but right after Adalia, that next day, I kind of communicated with the county that, you know, about something, you know, that we'll handle it. You know, we're fine. You know, we don't. I got a little stonewalled a little bit, and I got my stubbornness came out, and I think John calls it bad, Andy. And I said, we'll handle it. Well, you know, bright and early the next morning, all of a sudden the crews from Lee County were out here, and they were cleaning up and helping getting the roads cleaned up. But that's just the way to operate. You know, I don't think we should wait until somebody comes to help us. We got to set ourselves up for success and to be able to handle things our own way and not depend on others. There's certain times that you do depend on the county and the state because you have to, but there's certain times you just got to, you know, put on your big boy pants and get out there and, you know, and start picking up the brush and the trash and clean out the storm drains. And one of the things we've talked about probably almost nonstop is getting our equipment better and getting it repaired. And, you know, we've got stuff that was damaged by the storm too. And some things were more focused than others, but that's another priority that, again, there's that one A, B, C, D that we're focusing on.
If anyone has any questions, just come on up. Andy, do you know what the status is now that the Margaritaville sidewalk is coming around toward the bridge? What the status is of the state and the county getting that road reworked and, you know, the roundabout there with it so the traffic flows better?
John apparently knows.
Oh, John.
I do too, but let's see if he has the right answer.
Because, you know, now that everything is falling into place over there, it'd be nice to flow the traffic better.
I actually thought with the concrete work that was being done, that's kind of part of what, and then I've noticed where they put some concrete is going to have to come back out.
Sitting on the Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization, for that area, it's not really a roundabout. It was more like a Mr. Peanut is how it's been described to me. But the original bids came in way too high. I think there was only one actually. So they're rebidding it. It's only started this month. So it's down the road.
Okay. Nobody has any other questions for the town manager? The poll. Well, I think you kind of touched on it a little.
I need to get before our elected body, probably either our next meeting or the first meeting in January to get approval to start with design and, drawings and things like that. There's some exciting news coming very soon. So we're there. We've been working on it for about 3 or 4 months. We're right there. And I've spoken with council about it, and we want to, bring it out in a public meeting. So it's heard by the masses, but it's coming.
Come on up, sir. You don't really ever see a Denver Nuggets fan very much.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
By the way, did win the championship?
Yes, you did. What year was that? This last year.
Okay. Again, on permitting, it seems to me ever since the hurricane that everything needs a permit. Like if I have a crack in my driveway, can I fix it? Is there any definition at all to the residents, the homeowners, what needs a permit, what doesn't need a permit?
Well, I think one thing that when I got here, I started asking a lot of those questions. What do we need to do? And I kept getting referred to the 483 FAQs we had on our website. It's very, very difficult. And I'm not a good reader. I can read, but I choose not to. So I ask questions. And so, yes, there are, I'm going to try to say this as politically correct as I can. Before I got here, and before Frankie got in the picture, before we started doing some things, it seemed like we really were trying to be too legalistic. I'll just call it the way it is. And we've since tried to soften some of that. If you put a fence back where your fence was, put your fence back. If you had rocks in your yard before, put your rocks back. We're not going to come knocking on your door. We're not going to come in the middle of the night and yell and scream. And we're really changing. We're changing our beach patrol. What is it called? Base. Our beach patrol. Our base. There are neighborhood services, community. We're trying to be a little more friendly. We're trying to you know, everything's not we don't, you know, I was in Miami Beach, I was in Miami, and then everything's, you know, and so I know what not to do. And we don't want to do that here, you know, and we're not, we're trying, you know, and sometimes, you know, it just that little, you know, a candle, a fire has no shadow, right? But it's very bright when you turn it on. So we want to be those candles. We want to start lighting some candles where you see, oh, wow, really? I don't have to get a permit for the crack in my driveway. I don't have to get a permit for my rocks. You know, I might think that there's certain things we should do, and there's certain things on the book, and there's also certain things that administratively we can do. And I know, Scott, there's some things that have been discussed, and we're looking to streamline as much as we can, because it just doesn't make sense. We're also, I'm just going to touch on something that wasn't asked, and this is probably wading into places I'm going to not necessarily get in trouble, but you know, there's still some unsafe structures out there, and we recognize that, and we've sent letters, and we've approached that. But some of them are waiting on, anybody guess? 2 words: FEMA and insurance. And so we kind of have to back away from them. But that doesn't mean they can't mow their grass. That doesn't mean they can't pick the trash up in the yard. That doesn't mean, so we're doing some things along that, because, you know, this time of the year, and it's going to be a little chilly tonight. Ed and I got long sleeves on, and it's going to be, you know, the varmints, you know, creatures of the night, and the rats, and I haven't seen any possums on the island. We have possums. Okay, they look for those brush piles. They look for the trash. They look for whatever. But we've been noticing the birds. What are they? Osprey. Been picking up the trash in the park and putting it in their nest. We're like, we just need to get more osprey here and help us pick up. Didn't I? I said, look, if we wait long enough, they'll pick all our trash up. But we're not doing that. But there's a lot of things we need to do. Yeah, I'm here all week, folks. There's a lot of things we need to do, and I see the hook coming. So, thanks.
Thank you so very much. Really appreciate it. And I have a question about, actually, we're all here. We care about our town. We have a lot of volunteer spirit here. And I have some experience of, you know, storms in like the Jersey Shore, for example. Can we plant sea oats? And can we what we used to do is get a bunch of volunteers to go out and plant the sea oats in, we called them dunes rather than berms, okay? And it made such a difference. And to try and then keep the people with their bicycles and everything else from being on them. But if we can get the sea oats, okay, I think we could get a huge group of people to go out and actually plant them. What do you guys think?
See, in two of the towns where I work, when the building collapsed, they had to access the building from the beach, so they destroyed the dune in that area. So we had to replant and redo. And yes, you know, the sea oats are what has created the protection for Surfside and Miami Beach and things like that. And let me tell you, it makes a difference. When I was in Neptune Beach, the county did an $18 million renourishment project. And the first thing we did was we put sea oats in there, sea grasses, whatever, however you want to. But what we also did, and a lot of people frown on this for some reason. I'm a big fan of it. I don't know. I'm not trying to step out of any boundaries. But the fencing, I think if you're up north, it's called snow fencing. If you're in the south, it's called sand fencing. We would put that up, and let me tell you, before you know it, the sand is almost covering that thing up. It's an amazing thing to watch, and it happens overnight. I mean, and I don't know if that's something we have to deal with the state, and you know, but it helps protect, and it really does. I mean, it did in the beaches where I've been before. So, Chad, if you want to address the sea oats.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely with you. You're preaching to the choir here. I'd love to plant sea oats up and down the beach. And we do have the dune management plan, and that is coming after our renourishment plan. So we're going to be putting 1 million cubic yards out on the beach. It's a dredge, so we're dredging wet sand. It's going to come on as a slurry. It's going to be real messy. And so what the environmental engineer has advised me is to wait till the construction project's done, and then we'll start our planning. The other thing about just going out on the beach is a lot of that beach is actually privately owned. So just going out and planning, things in people's backyards. Even we as a government entity need permission from property owners.
You have a huge group of people that will volunteer their time. If we can find where those COs are, that will go in. We used to do it at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. Okay, because it made such a difference. And can I see a show of hands? What do you think about volunteering to do something like this? Would you guys do it? Yeah. Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
let us know when it's time and where we're getting the COs from.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, last call for questions, anyone? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to adjourn, if this is the proper time. All right. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for coming, and we will see you next time. Thank you all.